Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to call this Truth in Taxation public hearing to order. As mentioned by the village attorney, it's not a requirement, but we do go above and beyond with transparency. We're going to have a few minutes for the Truth in Taxation hearing. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Ahrens?
Here.
CAMERER?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
Shipman? Absent. President Wallace?
Here. And I will turn it over to Valerie or Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor. This public hearing is for input on the 2014 Village of Bartlett property tax levy. We have been discussing this tax levy over the last several meetings, so let me recap. The proposed Village of Bartlett property tax levy totals $9,344,699. The general corporate and police pension levy have decreased 1.59% from the 2013 extension. The debt service levy has decreased 1.03%. In total, the levy has decreased $141,473, or 1.49% from 2013. 2014 tax rates from Cook and DuPage will be determined in the spring of 2015 when both counties finalize their EAVs for the 2014 tax levy. Abatement ordinances will be presented for board approval at that time so as to get a better estimate of the EAV, which impacts our tax rates. This levy will be presented to the village board on December 2nd of this year for final approval and will be filed with each county clerk no later than December 18th as required by law.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. At this point, does anyone on the board have any questions regarding the hearing? Anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the hearing? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the hearing.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Ahrens, seconded by Trustee Martin. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
CAMERER?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
18th, 2014. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Still here.
CAMERER?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
Shipman? Absent. President Wallace?
Here. I've requested that Pastor Michael Fueling from the Village Church of Bartlett do the invocation. Immediately following the invocation, we're going to read a little piece regarding remembrance of Stephen Kane. So, Pastor Fueling.
Pray with me. Well, Father, as Thanksgiving draws near, we find truly so many reasons to be grateful. And I know I speak on behalf of so many in this room. Thank you for our jobs and our homes and our children, especially weeks like this where it is so cold. I am so thankful for the small things like electronic car starters that get our cars warm, or just the luxury of having heat in our cars. And you have showered us with more blessing and privilege than any other generation and any other nation in human history. And as if this were not enough, you have given us Jesus to die for our sins in our place. What more could you give us? As we gather to make decisions concerning our city, I pray that you would fill us not just with the wisdom needed to help our people and our city flourish, but I pray that you would fill us with so much gratitude that it would dispel our complaining and discontented spirits. And as life slows down, even just for a bit over the next couple of weeks, maybe even just for a day, would you remind each of us just how kind and generous you have been to us? We thank you, and we pray all of this in the name of Jesus, the greatest blessing and gift to all mankind. Amen.
Now I'd like to have a moment of silence for Stephen Kane, a member of the Bartlett Plan Commission who passed away last Friday. Steve served the village as commissioner for 21 years and was married to Janet and had a daughter, Katie, and two sons, Jonathan and Stephen, and two grandchildren. In addition to his long tenure with the commission, he also coached in the Bartlett Little League and was retired as the lieutenant commander in the Navy. So let's recognize a moment of silence for Stephen Kane, his service, and in memory of him. Thank you. Will you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving along to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a board member so requests, in which the event will be removed and considered at the appropriate time on the agenda. At this point, is there anything the board would like to add to the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. I would like to add A1, the IDNR Bike Path Intergovernmental Agreement, to the consent agenda.
Okay. Anything else? That I entertain a motion to amend the consent agenda to include the minutes, the bills list, and item A1, IDNR Bike Path Intergovernmental Agreement.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Aaron, seconded by Trustee Ranke. Is there any discussion about adding that? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Ranke, seconded by Trustee Martin. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, moving right along, item 8 is the Treasurer's Report. There is none for this evening. Next item on the agenda is under the President's Report, where this evening we will have a outline of Sikich's Auditor, and we have a presenter here, I believe, correct?
We do. We have our auditor, Jim Savio, is here, and will present the audit to the board.
Thank you, Valerie, and thank you for inviting me here tonight to present the comprehensive annual financial report for the village for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2014. I want to take a moment here to also thank Valerie, Jeff, Todd, and everyone, the entire staff of the village, for all of their help and assistance during the entire audit process. As far as the process itself, we start with a planning meeting in March. We have March 13th was a planning meeting. We have some preliminary field work on May 6th and May 7th. And then we do the bulk of our field work and our audit testing from July 21st to August 1st. We issued a draft of the financial statements at the end of August and then issued final reports October 17th. What I'd like to do now is just go over a few of the highlights of the comprehensive annual financial report, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'd like to start with the independent auditor's report, which is the tab right after the financial section. On pages 1 through 3 is the independent auditor's report. These are the only 3 pages that we as auditors are responsible for. Management is responsible for the rest of the comprehensive annual financial report. And those responsibilities are listed out on page 1 and also the very top of page 2. I also want to point out, too, real quick, this was the first year in many years that the village had to have a single audit because the village expended more than $500,000 in federal funds. So we actually had an audit in accordance with generally accepted governmental accounting standards. So that was something that was new this year. Turning over to page 2, up at the top is the opinion paragraph. We issued an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide to the village. Turning a couple pages over now to MD&A page 1. This is management's discussion and analysis. This was prepared by Jeff and provides a really good overview of the village's financial position as well as the changes in the financial position for the year. It also helps to explain if there's been any significant changes during the current fiscal year. And finally, it also provides some very good comparative data that you can't find in the rest of the comprehensive annual financial report. So the one thing I always tell everyone, I sound like a broken record, but if you only want to read one thing in this entire document, to read the management discussion and analysis, because like I said, presents a very good overview of the village's finances. Turning to page 4, actual page 4, not MD&A page 4. On pages 4 through 6 are what we call the government-wide financial statements, and these present basically the consolidated financial statements of the entire village. The only thing it excludes is the police pension fund and then the Bluff City Special Service Area Agency Fund, since they are fiduciary funds. It's presented on the economic resources measurement focus and the full accrual basis of accounting. And what that means basically is it just has a long-term focus. So it has capital assets included in long-term debt. Turning to page 7 is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. The governmental funds are on pages 7 through 12, and they're a little bit different than the government-wide financial statements. They're presented on a current financial resources measurement focus and then a modified accrual basis of accounting. So they have a short-term focus, and it's more of a budgetary basis focus. Does not include capital assets or any long-term debt. And the focus on these statements on pages 7 through 12 are on major funds, and then all the non-major funds are aggregated into one column, which is the second column from the right on page 7 and 8. The one thing I'll point out on the balance sheet here, first column, general fund, all the way down at the bottom, your unassigned fund balance is about $11.2 million. That's 51% of the current year general fund expenditures. So that's in accordance with your fund balance policy that requires 25 to 35% of unassigned fund balance. Turning to page 10 is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance for your governmental funds or your income statement. And two things I'll point out. Again, first column, your general fund. Down at the bottom of page 11, the net change in fund balance, your net income. Small net income, about $158,000, but that was a positive variance from what was budgeted. And then the capital projects fund, third column over, down at the bottom, again, net change in fund balance, negative $4.3 million, but that was a budgeted drawdown of the 2012 GEO bond proceeds. Turning to page 15, this is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position for your proprietary funds or your income statement. I'll just point out on page 15, operating income before depreciation for water and sewer, both positive, $118,000 and then $90,000. That's before the depreciation, which is a non-cash transaction. Turning to page 20 is the statement of changes in fiduciary net position for the police pension fund. I just want to point out net investment income about halfway down the page, about $1.5 million, and then net increase down at the bottom of about $2.2 million. So a pretty good year for the police pension fund this year. Turning to page 31, we're into the footnotes now to the financial statements. And one thing I would like to point out on page 31, footnote 2A up at the top, your deposits with financial institutions. Custodial credit risk is the risk that if the bank were to fail, that you wouldn't be able to recover your deposits at that bank. I just want to point out that all of the deposits were either insured by FDIC or they were collateralized with securities that were pledged from the bank where the deposits were held. So no exposure to custodial credit risk. And a similar footnote for the police pension fund is on page 33, footnote 2B. Also no exposure to custodial credit risk. And turning to page 54, where we're into the what we call required supplementary information. I want to point out the schedule of funding progress for the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. You'll notice the funded ratio is the fourth column over, which takes the actuarial value of the assets, divides it by the actuarial accrued liability to come up with the funded ratio. You'll see it's 79%, increase of about 3.5% from the prior year. The thing to note on IMRF is they smooth out gains and losses for investments over a 5-year period. So if you took the actual market value of the assets that you had at IMRF at December 31st, 2013, the funded ratio would actually be 91.31%. And finally, too, retirees are not included in these figures. Retirees are funded at 100%. So the actual funded ratio would be even higher if they were included in there. And then the last thing I'll point out on page 55, same information for the police pension fund. And you'll see the funded ratio about 85.5%, pretty close to what it was in the prior fiscal year, but still well funded. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anyone? I have a question.
Sure.
I think I asked the same question last year. Our fund balance policy, especially for the general fund, is 25 to 35%.
Correct.
And we're consistently always at 51%. Does that raise any red flags, or is it overbalanced in that fund? What is the reasoning for that?
I don't think it's any cause really for concern. I think 25, 35% is more of just a kind of a benchmark for what you need. I mean, having a little more isn't necessarily a bad thing. If there's excess amounts, I believe the policy says that it can be transferred for capital projects.
Building,
so,
yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else? Overall good? Really good?
Yeah, very good.
Very good.
Yep.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thank you for
Appreciate
your
it.
time.
That is the President's report. The next item on our agenda, any questions from trustees at this point for staff?
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
I believe we had a nice lady that came to the board meeting last time, was asking about some truck traffic on Devon. Do we have any answers for that person?
I'm sorry.
You can't hear you.
I believe we had someone that came to the last meeting that inquired about some truck traffic on Devon.
We did. I'll ask the chief to give you details on that. We've spent some time with DuPage County and Hanover Park in an effort to provide some additional truck routes that would divert them from some of our roads, and that has not been successful. And I'll let the chief talk about why.
Yes, Ms. Gates came in last month and very eloquently articulated her concerns about the obvious increase in truck traffic along Stearns Road to South Bartlett Road up into the middle of town to Devine Avenue and then east on Devine through Hanover Park and out onto 20. And then they're picking up the Elgin O'Hare. And her concern is what we could do about that. And quite frankly, we've met with the DuPage County Department of Transportation and Hanover Park Police Department and the village over there to try and discern any concerns they may have or any interest they may have in helping us regulate the weight restrictions on those roadways. And the issues with those roadways is they don't fall under the auspice of the governing bodies of Bartlett. They're DuPage County roads and Hanover Park roads. We have no jurisdiction. So in total, what we've done is lock down all the streets with weight restrictions to keep truck traffic out of town and keep it out on the main arteries, that being Army Trail 59 and Route 20. Those are all our roadways. We've restricted those to 12,000. We can't do that on roads that aren't in our jurisdiction. So we met with DuPage County, and they stated that actually under their vision, those roadways serve a vital interest to all the communities in providing efficient and cost-effective and safe routes of transportation to include trucks. And under their culture or vision, they do not impose restrictions on weights as long as they're legal under the state standard. None of those trucks are violating state standards. So, and we also met with Hanover Park and asked if they'd be willing to impose a weight restriction on their part of the roadway, thus blocking the egress or ingress in through our town. And they stated why they were dedicated to enforcing weight restrictions on trucks using the roadway. There was no interest at this time for restricting the weights either. So that being said, what we're left with is all we can do, which is monitor the traffic and do safety checks on the traffic and enforce overweights, which we're not finding a lot of. And I can tell you this week we've written about a dozen citations on untarped loads, things like that. But there's really the truck traffic in itself, we are handcuffed. There's nothing we can do to restrict it at this point.
Did anybody get back to her to let her
We
know?
did. We called Ms. Gates and let her know what we had accomplished.
Okay, thank you.
We did.
Chief, is there anything, does the mayor of Hanover Park not want that because he doesn't want the traffic going up to Lake Street? Is that his reasoning for not wanting to shut down Devon?
That's a great question. We did not meet with the mayor. We met with the executives of the police department. So while I don't have a direct comment from the mayor's office.
Okay. I'll have to. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I had a question for the chief. Have you heard about a telephone scam targeting veterans?
Specifically, no. But there's a lot of telephone scamming going on right now through the holidays. So, yeah, if there was one new, we would want to hear about that. We want to talk to the person that was
Okay. I'll talk to you later about that.
Absolutely.
And, is there anything we can do?
We do. We put it on the webpage. We put it in the Bartlett letter that if you don't know the person and they can't verify for you at a level that makes you very comfortable who they are, there should be no money transactions whatsoever. There's a lot of threatening type of phone scams going on now where if you don't give us your information right now, your financial information right now, you will be arrested. Those are real common. They're all over North America. They're not unique to Bartlett, and really what it is, as you said, is an educational process. So, yeah, every chance we get through our neighborhood watch programs and through our social media, we do all we can to educate the public on that.
Okay, thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Go ahead.
Scott, can you give us a little bit of an update of what's going on at the train station?
The heat, or lack thereof.
Other than trains?
Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
I'm an all trustee Carbonaro. We learned that the heat went out at the Metro station mid last week. I believe it was Thursday. We contacted Metro. They came out immediately on Friday, assessed the situation, took a look at our HVAC unit and the furnace, identified the part that needed to be replaced, realized that part was now obsolete. So they have to order a new furnace, which they have done. It's going to take about 3 to 4 days. Our Public Works Department put some temporary heaters in to make sure that the piping in the facility would remain, nothing would get damaged and the pipes wouldn't freeze. But it certainly is very cold and uncomfortable for the commuters right now, but we hope that that gets rectified in the next couple days.
Perfect timing, right?
Yep.
When you do that, does the village take credit? I mean, do the heaters have village compliments, the village of Bartlett or anything on them?
Well, it's now in the minutes, so we'll make sure that we get credit for that.
You should. I mean, we should toot our own horn now and
The
then.
alternative is they'll start a fire in the train station, right?
Yeah. Bartlett, a warm place to live.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. Any other questions at this point? Hearing none, we'll move along to the town hall portion of our meeting. At this point, we'd suggest that anyone that would like to address the board, please step up to the podium, state your name, and try to keep your comments to at least 3 minutes. Anybody like to address the board at this time?
Thank you. My name is Katrina McGuire from the law firm of Thompson Coburn. I'm here on behalf of Artis Senior Development. We are Senior Living, rather. I apologize. I'm here today with Jay Hicks and Kevin Serafin, our project team. We know we're up for a vote coming up on the Planning and Zoning Committee subsection of the agenda. However, we did want to indicate that we are here and available if the board members have any additional questions of us. We do believe we've addressed all the questions and concerns and exhausted all avenues and opportunities as far as access, et cetera, but we did want all of you to know that we are available for any further questions should you have any.
Thank you so much. Anybody else like to address the board at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to our standing committee reports. Next item on the agenda for standing committee reports, Planning and Zoning Committee chaired by Trustee CAMERER.
Thank you, President Wallace. The first item we may have moved over to the consent agenda. And so the second item we have tonight is the petition of Artist Senior Living, LLC, for one, approval of a proposed preliminary plat of the subdivision for a 3-lot subdivision of a 10.1 acre parcel on the east side of Route 59 south of Apple Valley Drive. 2, a special use permit for a planned unit development for proposed Lot 1 of the preliminary subdivision, which is 3.26 acres in size, for a 72-unit memory care assisted living facility for seniors with Alzheimer's or dementia. And 3, approval of a preliminary site plan, preliminary PUD plan for the memory care facility. The Plan Commission held a public hearing on the petition on September 11, 2014, and made findings of fact and recommended approval of the petition subject to several conditions. The Committee of the Whole reviewed the petition on October 21, 2014, at which the Board asked staff and the petitioner to contact IDOT and the neighboring property owners regarding the proposed right-in, right-out access and to explore alternate shared access as well as other concerns with future access to proposed Lot 2, which is 5.19 acres in size. Petitioner approached IDOT and the owners of the property north and south of the subject property, but could not get the agreement of either owner regarding shared access at this time. The village attorney prepared the ordinance, which is before the board for a vote, in which he added additional conditions to address issues raised by the board or the village attorney at the Committee of the Whole meeting. With that, I move to pass Ordinance 2014-90, an ordinance granting a special use permit for a planned unit development, approving a preliminary PUD plan for Lot 1, and approving a preliminary plat of subdivision for Artist Senior Living as presented.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Camerer, seconded by Trustee Martin. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Jim, do you have the little picture that shows the different lots on there?
Just in your packet. I don't have it up on the screen.
Okay. First one. I just bought Lot 2. Where is my frontage road signage area, and how do I get out to Route 59? Because that is confusing me.
I'm sorry, maybe the petitioner could come up and answer that. I didn't hear your question, though.
Hypothetically, I just bought Lot 2. Where's my frontage road signage area, and how do I get out to Route 59?
There's an ingress-egress easement between Lot 1 and Lot 3 on Lot 1 that gets back to Lot 2. And it goes out to a right-in, right-out access on Route 59.
So all 3 lots are going to share the same egress? Go on more.
Yes.
Bob, I missed that.
And we went through an exhaustive process with IDOT, and that's about the only location we can have our access point.
When you were talking with IDOT, did they seem flexible at all with being able to turn other than right in, right out?
They had given us an opportunity that if we had proper spacing with the two existing accesses to the north and to the south, and could get the turn lane distances required in their manuals, which is it's 430 feet, including the taper and the storage length, which, when it works opposite of the left turn lane into the Home Depot, puts the access point about 30 or 40 feet north of our south line, which would cause crossover traffic with the exit to the church.
Gotcha.
So that's an unsafe condition.
Okay. Right in, right out's okay for your facility, though?
Are you aware of any of the? Are you aware of the changes the Planning Commission's recommending?
As far as what came up at the
last meeting?
Yes.
And everything's okay with you?
Yep.
Any other questions?
Hearing none, Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
No.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
No.
President Wallace?
Yes. Motion carries.
Welcome
That
to
it?
Bartlett.
Okay, that's all I have for this evening. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is under standing committee reports is B, Building Committee Chairman Martin.
I have no report at this time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. Next item of standing committee reports is under Finance and Golf Committee Chairman Ranky.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item on Finance and Golf tonight, the Bartlett Hills construction bid. And with that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
Thank you, Trustee Ranky. This was an item that was earmarked in the building fund for $250,000. It was an item that was presented to you at the September 16th and the October 7th Committee of the Whole meeting. And we were directed at the last Committee of the Whole meeting to go out for bids. We put out a notice in the Daily Herald and the Bartlett Examiner, and the pre-bid meeting was October 22nd, and we had a public bid opening on October 29th, and we had 4 bidders, and they came in at a range of $179,000 to $237,500. So that item came under $59,400 under budget. And also included in those bids were some alternates that staff had selected in order to be able to get the best price and have some flexibility on some of the items that would have to go in. And I can take you through those alternates. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me or let me know. The first alternate was patching of the carpeting. And the difficulty of that was we have a carpeting that was put in there a while back, so to find a matching carpeting would be difficult. So staff elected to take that out of the bid, reducing it by $3,500, and staff is electing to find our own vendor to patch up the carpeting and make it match should the board wish to continue with this item. Our second alternate was hardwood flooring, and that was an allowance of $9,000. Staff felt as though that was a good price, so we elected to have the construction company go ahead and include that in their base bid. The third alternate was the room dividers that allow us to have 2 functions at one time. That came in, and we decided to include that, and the contractor would be responsible for putting that in. The next alternate was the windows, and the windows we looked at, they're 17 years old, and there's a possibility of some corrosion. And the lead time on the windows was 4 to 6 weeks, so we felt as though not including that would jeopardize the timeline of that construction. So we did include the windows as an alternate in that. The final alternate was a granite countertop. The current countertop is 17 years old, which is the age of the building. And so we decided to include a new countertop because we wouldn't be able to match the current existing one. So we decided to include that in the alternate. In the summary, when staff includes alternates 1, 4, and 5, which add $11,600 to the base bid, and that's where we got the $190,600. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, I actually do, Scott, because one of the things we brought up when we talked about this construction, and I specifically asked this to the staff, I said, you can assure me that we're going to just keep the windows and move the windows with the project, and now we're buying new windows for $9,000. I thought that wasn't the case.
You absolutely did point that out. We investigated that after you had mentioned that, and we looked at the lead time of the windows, the age of the windows, and for the building code standards and energy efficiency. We decided to elect that because having if they had taken the windows out and they were corroded, that would jeopardize the timeline of the construction, and that would also jeopardize some of the liquidated assets that were included in the contract.
So we're not removing all the windows, though. There's more windows than what you guys are putting in right there. There's more than just 4 windows in that new addition, right?
That's correct. The 4 windows would be the banquet windows.
So the existing windows are good enough. They're the same age. Is that right?
The windows that are included in the construction costs.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the included in the construction costs. I'm just talking about the windows that will be in the bar area of the facility.
I think, and maybe Brian could address this, but I think those windows have not as much of a lead time as the windows that are in the banquet.
You're correct. There is one window in the banquet room that would have to replace the existing door, and then there's two other windows that are in the bar area.
Right.
But replacing all of the windows will meet the energy code requirements. I'm a little concerned about using older windows in there when we're expanding all the way out with the state requirements now.
Well, my issue is that I don't understand. We're keeping the old windows and we're putting in new windows to meet energy efficiency, apparently, and yet we're keeping some of the existing windows in place.
The other windows aren't being touched. We're just expanding the west side of the building where currently there are 4 windows that have to be relocated out.
So what,
we don't know the condition once those windows are taken out, what the sills are like or any of that, and plus they don't meet the existing state energy requirements today.
and do the ones that are already in place meet the state energy requirements?
They're not being touched. You don't have to worry about those.
That's not the question. Do they meet it?
The new ones, no.
No, the existing ones.
The existings do not.
Right.
You don't have to touch them if you're not doing any work on them.
Well, I know that, but the fact of it is if they're careful moving the old windows and put them in place, they're just the same as they were before we started, just a new wall.
It's like being grandfathered in. They're not going to come and say you have to.
It's ridiculous.
Replace
It's
these
spending
windows.
money for the sake of spending money.
We did put in the base bid, we have replacing, in the base bid we had relocating 4 windows, trying to take them out, salvage them, and move them and reuse them. So that's included in the 179. We put this item as an alternate to see what the cost would be if we replaced it. The other thing we had in there in the contract specifications were liquidated damages that are fairly substantial. And with the lead time of if they damage them taking them out, or when you open up the wall, if they're rotted, the frame's rotted, it would take additional time. That kind of knocks out the liquidated damages. So you could eliminate that. You could approve this contract without alternate number 4, which is to replace 4 new windows, and that would change it from $190,600.
181.
Thank you. $181,600. I was trying to calculate, and try to utilize those windows. If it turns out that 1 or 2 windows are damaged in that process, the problem is then ordering them at that point, and then we're looking at that 6-week lead time, which kind of knocks out our ability to try and penalize the contractor for liquidated damages. One of the things is, we want to make sure we're done at a certain point so we can schedule events starting right away, and you want to know, we're done on time. So that can be eliminated because that's what you said, that's what the base bid included. When we saw what the benefits were and where we were within the budget, and then getting the additional benefit of having the energy efficient windows, thought that that would be a prudent alternate, but it doesn't have to be included. It could be voted on without alternate number 4, and the number would be $181,600.
All right. What do we have to do that?
Well, hold on. Brian, if we move the windows and say they are all intact, are we still allowed to put them up, or we're not allowed to do that now because the energy efficient rating?
Well, what I can do is call the state commission that I know. I actually see him tomorrow in the summer. I'm attending all day, so I can ask him that question. Find out.
I believe our position would be they could be reused, but
I would hope so. It just seems like it's just spending money that doesn't have to be spent. If people are careful taking out the windows and putting in the existing windows that would have been there, say if we didn't do any constructions, they'd still be there, we'd still be using them. If a contractor does a good job and takes his time and takes them out, I don't see why they couldn't be used again.
Well, a lot of times you don't know until you open up the wall, to be quite honest, what's behind there. I get what you're saying. I believe in saving money, but if we can't do it because we're moving them and there has to be a certain energy rating, then...
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the place has termites or anything, so I think we're okay.
There's dry rot, there's a dozen other things.
I mean, what we could do is remove it, and then let's say one is damaged or has that, when you open up the wall, just do a change order to add one window instead of 4, as an example. You know, so right now you could approve it without it, and then see what happens, and we do a change order to add 1 or none, you know, whatever it may be.
Well, just as a matter of procedure, my suggestion would be when we're done talking to the staff, let's get a motion on the floor, and then if you want to remove one of the alternatives, we'll make a motion to amend the pending motion, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
I have one more question for. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So alternative number 5, the granite countertop. Speaking of spending money to spend money, let's talk about that. I don't spend a lot of time at the bar over at Bartlett Hills, or really any time at all, but I don't recall what exactly you're talking about. Why is it difficult to just match the laminate? And if we can't match the laminate, why do we have to upgrade to granite?
The current laminate in there is the same age as the building. So that particular laminate, to match that would be next to impossible because of how worn out it is. So matching the laminate probably wouldn't be an option. We also had a series of years before the state of Illinois passed the smoking law. We had smoking in there and things like that. So the laminate would be difficult. As far as going up to the granite countertop, that's something that we can look at. But the theory in that was the fact that if you got that, you wouldn't have to, there would be no maintenance, it's easy to clean, and it really, you wouldn't, I mean, it's not damageable, so you would have the opportunity to keep that countertop really for a long time.
And how much is that?
$6,100.
It was $6,100 in the...
Another option could be, if you don't like that, is do not select alternate 5 and then go back to the contractor to get a price for replacing all countertops with laminate, as opposed to just the stretch, you know, trying to match the existing. I didn't think of that when we were putting these together as an alternate to the alternate.
You read my mind, Counsel.
I knew where you were going.
Okay.
I would prefer granite. I'll go on, Mark, because I do spend a little time out there, so I would prefer granite.
It's easier to clean.
Okay.
Granite? Granite has to be treated.
I assume there are other questions, comments?
I have one other question, and I don't want to keep beating this drum about the windows, but I mean, you could easily justify energy-efficient windows over a period of time, replacing old windows with new windows with the amount of heat that stays in and the amount of cold that stays out, right? I mean, if you wanted to do the analysis, you could have justified the $9,000 in so many different ways. That's one of the reasons why I'm a fan of new windows, but that's my opinion.
Am I correct in assuming that we've not increased the work area behind the bar?
We have increased the work area behind the bar.
And I apologize, I don't have the plans here, so.
The bar curve goes out. I think it's about an extra 3 to 4 feet. The point of sale will change locations. You know how when you're in the banquet and you're in a golf outing, that point of sale gets a little tight with the employee. So we've changed the point of sale. We've expanded it by 3 to 4 feet. So that would give a lot more room for, as you said, 2 people working behind the bar.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I move to award Bartlett Hills expansion project bid to Walter Daniels Construction Company, Inc., the lowest and responsive bidder for the sum of $190,600, which includes alternates 1, 4, and 5, and pass Resolution 2014-91, a resolution approving the agreement between the Village of Bartlett and Walter Daniels Construction Company for the Bartlett Hills Clubhouse Expansion Project.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Ranky, seconded by Trustee Martin. What other discussion do we have?
At this point, would we make a motion to amend the amendment to take...
The motion is on the table to include all alternates.
I move to amend the pending motion to remove alternative number 4 and number 5.
Second.
Oh, it was already seconded. That's how you read it the first time, correct?
No, but this is a motion to amend now.
Okay.
It was the original motion was moved and seconded. Now what takes precedent is the motion to amend. And that would be...
That would remove both.
Alternates 4 and 5.
Is there any discussion on that?
What is your ideal for number 5? What do you want them to do?
I think the laminate idea makes some sense. I think the granite is perhaps a little bit too expensive.
Okay, but my suggestion would be they do it all in one. Maybe they do the
No
whole...
patchwork.
Yeah,
no patchwork.
We'll come back.
One thing we want
That'll
is
be
it
a
to
later
look good.
date.
We don't want,
Change order.
well, this was on sale, so we're going to go that. It's almost the same green.
Right.
We don't want to look cheap.
Patchwork carpet.
We don't want to pay full price, but we don't want to look cheap. So
Okay.
I'm
Scott, what was the time frame for the windows?
The lead time for the windows is 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the time of the ones in the banquet are a little different than the dining room. They are, as far as windows goes, as far as custom made, I mean, that's a definition of custom made.
Mm-hmm.
You can't possibly order a window of that size and return it. That was one of the problems. We approached the window companies and asked them, what can you do? Here's the situation. And they pretty much told us, unfortunately, to order a window of that magnitude, you're ordering it and you're keeping it.
What's the odds of us losing 1 or 2 events because we're waiting on windows?
Well, the disadvantage of losing the events is somebody has an event booked.
Yeah.
From a financial perspective, it would depend on the event. But as far as, I'm not sure if...
Would you say we'd lose $8,000 or $10,000?
I believe the first 2 events coming up in April, if we're aiming at April, probably... I know one of them's a wedding. I don't know the contract. You might be $10,000, $15,000. Besides the reputation of us being able to handle business properly for these people that are planning on this event.
Yeah.
What is the completion date of this if we pass it?
The completion date is... the final punch date is March 27th, but we're hoping March 13th, but the punch list would be March 27th.
And you said 4 to 6 weeks for the windows, right?
At least.
Well, can they not start at the windows from the inside and check them out?
I can tell you what we'll do. As Brian said, he'll talk to the commissioner tomorrow at the seminar. We'll also work with the window companies and the construction company. And we will do everything we can. But Brian could probably talk more about the change orders and the liquidated assets. But as far as salvaging the windows, we'll continue to work with the construction company on that, absolutely. But again, we would need Brian's information as well as village attorney's information as far as liquidated assets and things of that nature.
Well, is there any way we can put in this amendment that if, once Brian talks to who he has to, if they say no, we have to put new windows in there because of the rating, then we don't have to vote on it again. So
What's your opinion on that,
light.
Brian? You've already given us opinion that you seem to think that wouldn't be the case.
Well, that was kind of off the cuff. It just would seem to me that you're keeping the same windows in the same facility, that should be the, it's the code issue. We should be, my gut reaction is we should be okay on that. But I'm not certain of that.
As far as a lead time, if we have the existing windows, we don't have to order any. They're going to be there. When you get ready to have the windows installed, you simply move the old ones to the new wall and you put them in.
That's certainly something we can absolutely address with the construction company. I'm not sure the process of adding on and constructing, I'm not sure at what point during the process they would remove the windows. But
Okay, I think that, can we have both the countertop and the choose to resolve before the next village board meeting, or perhaps even the next village board meeting after that?
I think, Trustee Ranke, I think as far as the countertop issue, I'm pretty sure that's really an easy thing to solve.
All right. So rather than beat this dead horse,
with the amendment.
right, let's pass it with the amendment, and if we need
vote
to
on
change
the
it, we can
amendment.
all come back and we can vote on it.
All right.
Now, we can have the contractor direct him to open up the wall and start by looking at the windows now, at least, not necessarily remove them, but see what he can see. If he sees any, sign of moisture or rot on it, at least we'd see the frame.
But you've got to get it done attitude. You missed your calling. You should have been in construction work.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the contract excluding...
Well, right now, it's just to approve the amendment. So the motion is to
approve the amendment.
Move alternates
4 and 5.
Yes. So there should be a
Is there any
vote.
other discussion on that? The clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, so now there should be a motion to approve of the contract with
amendments.
Right, that would only have alternate 1, which is a deduct of $3,500.
And probably the other items just to be legalese.
Yeah. So the resolution that's before you had alternates 1, 4, and 5. Alternate 1 was a deduct of $3,500. So the new price would be $179,000 less $3,500. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. 179,000 minus 3,500 equals. I will entertain a motion to approve the contract. 179,000. Actually, at
It should be plus.
175,500 to complete the work as shown.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Aaron's, seconded by Trustee Ranke to approve the contract resolution 2014-91 in the amount of 175,500.
Which would include only alternate 1.
Include only alternate 1. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Present.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
No.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all we have for finance and golf tonight.
I'm sorry. Teal, did you vote present?
Yes.
You have to do yea or nay.
Figure that one out.
Okay, if you're going to stand there, then you should vote, Mayor.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman Ranke. Moving right along. Under License and Ordinance Committee, Chairman Carbonaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing to report this evening.
Thank you, Chairman Carbonaro. Next on the item, committee reports is Police and Health Committee. Chairman Shipman is absent today with no report. And finally, Public Works Committee, Chairman Ahrens.
Well, thank you so much. We have no report due to popular demand.
Thank you, Chairman Ahrens. Moving right along, is there any new business for the good of the order? Hearing none. Any additional questions from the board?
How's the insurance process coming along?
As I had indicated, that our Blue Cross Blue Shield came back and told us that we can't change functionally our insurance to self-insurance in the middle of a contract year. So we'll be looking at that probably late summer and doing a complete analysis of that in time to be able to change if the board so chooses for the next calendar year. We have proceeded with the open enrollment period, provided our employees with some information about that there were no changes in this from last year, and we're moving along. I think the next insurance issue that will be coming up as we move forward to negotiate our employee contracts.
will we be in the position to analyze the various proposals submitted by Sullivan and Bartlett Insurance in June? I want to make sure that that's all ready.
Yeah, we won't be doing anything with it till next December. So, sometime this summer, we'll want to spend more time with the consultant that we took a look at, make sure that we're getting that report together so we have, 6 months to make the decision.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I don't know if we have any homeless or transients, but if we do we have a plan to get them inside or help them get to the proper place so they don't freeze when it gets this cold?
During the cold months, as we do during the really hot months, we do offer shelter at the police station.
Just curious.
And I have a question that might be for Dan, but it was brought to my attention that our nice decorative street lamps as we come into West Bartlett Road corridor, apparently they were bringing it to my attention that there's quite a bit of paint or coating flake on those lamps. The paint's flaking off and looking kind of like an eyesore. Are you aware of that? Do you know anything going on with that?
Up on the glass itself.
Yeah, on the powder coating, I guess is what they were saying. I thought, well, that'd be a shame if these nice poles are all of a sudden starting to flake away and look bad. So
Can't paint them now.
Well, paint them sometime.
Any other questions, Board has? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.